Hi, I'm Louis Paul. This is The Colors of Prog. This is season 4, episode 7. I'm calling this program The Sides of Peter Banks. Born in 1947, Peter Banks' real last name was Brock Banks, was in a band with Chris Squire called The Sin. After that, he was in Mabel Greer's Toy Shop. And that band also featured John Anderson as a vocalist. I kid you not. I came across some YouTube video. So if you Google Mabel Greer's Toy Shop, it was up, then it wasn't up, but then it was up again. So I'm not sure about what the story is with that. Anyway, flash forward a few years, and Yes is born with a lineup of John Anderson, Peter Banks, Chris Squire, Tony Kaye, and Bill Bruford. Pretty great lineup there. The first Yes album, released in 1969, simply titled Yes, is a curious sounding record. Not quite the Yes you are used to, with its borrows from a Beatles cover, Every Little Thing, to a snatch from an Elmer Bernstein score from a film, incorporated into one of Tony Kaye's keyboard breaks. Beside Anderson's vocals, Banks' guitar really stands out. It's tough and it really anchors the music, alongside Bruford and Squire. In my opinion, it's still a fine debut. The Elektra 2003 CD reissue features 6 alternate tracks from the sessions. So, for you Yes fans, something to keep in mind. Time and a Word, released in 1970, found the same band as the original back cover for the U.S. release. Kind of scary looking pictures there. I found the band in a tougher, leaner, and a more cohesive sound. Astral Traveler dates from this record, but it's the Richie Havens cover, No Opportunity Necessary, No Experience Needed, that really is the gem in this record. Now, orchestral parts were added to the album and mixed down, and led to disagreements with the band. Peter Banks left, or was asked to leave. I'm not quite sure. You'll read different stories, even different interviews with the band members over the years. No one ever is quite clear, or will say what happened. Anyway, Banks was replaced with Steve Howe, who was in the band Tomorrow. And there was a photo session. And for the U.S. release of Time and a Word, although Peter Banks does appear in the back cover, pardon me, and is credited, Howe appears. One of the great mysteries. Again, a 2003 Elektra CD remaster found 4 tracks from the original mix, sans orchestral overdub, so it gives you an idea. So by the time Time and a Word was released in the U.S., Peter Banks is out of the band, and it's odd that the front album cover featuring Steve Howe is not that clear. It's probably whatever they had remaining from the sessions. So by 1972, Peter Banks teamed up with some old Yes teammate, Tony Kaye, who by 1972 was also asked to leave Yes. And supposedly Tony Kaye, he had his own band. I think Badger may have been the name of it. And he was also busy working on other projects, so he's not officially in Flash, Tony Kaye's next album. And Flash seems obviously designed as a sort of a Yes sound-alike band of sorts, But the problem here is the lead singer, Colin Carter, who has a bit of a high register voice, but he's also totally capable of hitting some irritating notes now and then. I mean, for those who don't love Rush, Geddy Lee can hit some high irritating notes, but you have to get used to it. If you like that sort of thing, it's fine. But then when Colin Carter is not hitting the high register, he has a very workmanlike, lifeless, average voice. And so, anyway, even with the Hypnosis Woman in Panties album cover, Flash was a non-starter. And anyone familiar with Hypnosis, they designed some of the more interesting Pink Floyd album covers amongst other bands. So here's the Flash album cover. Yes. The second Flash album has even a more provocative album cover, but the follow-up, In the Can, released in 1972 without Tony Kaye, who was busy at the other time, which is okay. A woman's bare breast covered by her long, lengthy hair was probably thought of as some kind of marketing thing, but the music just was okay. By the time of the Flash's third album, Out of Our Hands, that was the last. But hold still, 1973's definitive Peter Banks solo album is The Two Sides of Peter Banks. Also, like these Flash albums, it was on the Capitol Sovereign label. And Sovereign was like a subsidiary of Capitol. Back in the day, a lot of Atlantic, Capitol, and others, they had subsidiary, smaller labels that would handle different kinds of music and not, at the time, what they deemed the most popular bands or solo artists. So, The Two Sides of Peter Banks on Sovereign. It has sometimes, back in the day, back in the 70s, gatefold sleeves were a thing, right? And when they got imaginative and creative, sometimes visually stunning, they were fun. And sometimes they're just like, what is this? And sometimes they were designed to stare at while you were stoned, just to figure out what's going on, like this one. So Peter Banks would release a few other solo albums and release some live gigs over the years, culminating in a posthumous David Cross Peter Banks CD, which I'll get to later. So who plays on The Two Sides of Peter Banks? Well, pretty much on most, if not all, the album, it's Peter Banks and Jan Ackerman of Focus. Yes, the guitarist from Focus. Ackerman's on the left channel, Banks is on the right channel. Phil Collins plays percussion, Steve Hackett and John Wetton, and Mike Howe from the Flash days. And Mike Howe was playing bass, I believe, along with Ray Bennett. No, Mike Howe plays drums when Phil Collins is not playing drums, and Collins plays on the majority of stuff. John Wetton, last name spelled Whetton, is of course on bass. So, what's the music like on this all-instrumental album? There's some tropes from, yes, I'm serious. The Roundabout signature riff obviously appears on the White House Veil. It's a song. But does this mean to say that Banks wrote an early version of Roundabout? Or was pissed he was no longer in the band? Who knows? In any case, it's a pretty good album with two really good guitar players, Peter Banks and John Ackerman, and for the most part, playing off of each other. This is an undiscovered gem for a lot of you, I'm sure. I highly recommend this album. It's really good. The two sides of Peter Banks. Finally, we have this David Cross Peter Banks CD called Crossover. It was released in 2020. Cross is known as the violinist with King Crimson, specifically the 72, 74, 75 period. Now, Banks passed in 2013, but in 2010, he and Cross got together for afternoon and recorded guitar and violin parts. They just jammed. But it took Cross years to go back to the tapes and make the decision to release the music to the public. So what began as improvisations were parceled out to other musicians to help flesh out the sound. It's an impressive list. An impressive list helped add their instruments, including Jeff Downs, Billy Sherwood, Oliver Wakeman, Jay Shellen, Tony Kaye, and Pat Mescalero from Crimson. All this additional music was added to the tapes in 2018 and 2019 before the final mixes, and what we have ostensibly is Peter Banks' last recorded work. It's an ambient sounding record, not like those Fripp and Eno collaborations, if you guys remember the Fripp and Eno sound wave music stuff. It's a very relaxing record and recommended for those into progressive sounds, not far removed sometimes from early Crimson or possibly at a stretch Tangerine Dream. But yeah, David Cross and Peter Banks. So in less than 13 minutes, shout out to the late Peter Banks and just recalling some of his music, the sides of Peter Banks. Thanks for watching the show. We are on Facebook, Podbean, and YouTube. I'll be back soon.